Hi everybody, welcome to the Evangelist Garrett channel. This is a fourth video in a series we're doing breaking down each day of creation one at a time. If you haven't seen day 1, 2, and 3, check them out first because each day feeds into the next as far as context and understanding. Let's jump right into the fourth day as usual with me reading it to you in a direct English translation. This is day 4, chapter 1, Genesis. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. We have a lot to break down here, especially given the context of what we learned about firmament during day 2 and day 3. So, and God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens." Lights, plural, different from the light on day 1. On day 1, God created revelatory light. Darkness existed and he separated the two. We're also not talking about that universal revelatory light, but purposeful lights placed in a specific place, the firmaments of the heaven. We remember that firmament meant expanse, sky. We had waters below the firmament. We had waters above the firmament called the heavens. God is placing these lights above the firmament, right? This is what he says of the lights in the heavens and their divisions into day and night. Let them be for signs, seasons, days, and years. This is what launched the people of ancient antiquity into astronomy. Building along constellations, identifying stars and creating buildings around positions of heavenly bodies and solstices and equinoxes. You can't go anywhere in the world and not find this type of relationship. I'll give you a few brief examples. The Great Pyramid at Giza and the other 2 beside it match the star pattern of Orion's belt. You see the same type of things among Aztecs and Incas in South America. You see the same type of things among ancient megalithic people in North America, where on solstices and equinoxes, the sun would shine through a cavern just so to let them know that their date was right. So from the very beginning, people are using these heavenly lights as God intended for them to be used. It's really, really fascinating. Of the lights, he said, let them be for the lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light upon the earth, and it was so. Again, this is different from the universal light on day 1. And God made 2 great lights, it says, the greater light to rule the day and a lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. So the greater light must be the sun to rule the day. And the moon, the lesser light to rule the night. So I have a few questions here. Does the same great light rule the day at all times, or does it rule part of the day on part of the planet? We call it the Terminator line in heliocentrism, right? The sun goes on one side and it's a shadow on the other, etc. But to the earliest people writing and reading the Bible, the earth was a flat earth book. So I just wonder what their concepts of it were. Secondly, modern cosmology teaches us that the light from the moon is a reflection from the sun. But all the language here and in other places in the Bible reveal the moon to be self-lighting somehow. So I think that's interesting. It's certainly worth looking into by somebody who knows more about this than I do. So, and God set them in the firmament in the heaven to give light upon the earth, rule over the day, rule over the night, divide the light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. So for signs, seasons, days, and years. Interestingly, later, God would end up ordaining certain festivals, seasons. Yet at this early date, is there something more? Let's see what happens. We've had good luck looking at different languages and kind of seeing what the words might reveal as far as context clues. Let's start with the Hebrew. We have like Aot, starts with Aleph, Vav, and Tav. Now let's take a look at what the pictograph terminology is. The Aleph, we have the ox, and it represents the head, the strength, the power. The Vav, we have add, secure, hook. And then Tav is that cross or mark, sign, signal. In this case, its use signifies that it will be used in future events such as a covenant. You can read more about that part in Vine's expository dictionary. But we might end up with something using the pictographs that says, God the Almighty and Powerful secures and hooks and marks the lights in the sky for signs and signals. If we use Greek, we see the word sema, to make a sign. In Latin, we get luminaria in the firmament. In verse 17, we see further reference to supernatural again. Remember, one theme we've seen throughout each day of Genesis is the Latin terminology, supernatural. So now we have supernatural luminaria, referring to the heavenly bodies. In Spanish, we don't see firmament, we see luminaries, but what they say is instead of firmament, it's expansión los cielos, the expansion of the heavens, the light in the expanse of the heavens. In the German, other than that, what I really like about the German translation of reading this is und Gott sprach, and God spoke into existence. And we see more of that here too. Now, I want to talk about, we talked about signs, right? It was for signs, seasons, days, years. Let's look at days, yom. And let's do that breakdown of the pictograph again. Always remembering people don't read Hebrew this way. We just get extra revelatory things by doing so. Yod, we get the outstretched arm, right? The work of the hand, the outstretched arm, work through worship. We get next for Yom, we get the eye, right? To watch, to know. It can mean shade. And with Mem, we get water, chaos, mighty, blood. So we might get something like to remember the work of God's hands, delivering them from the water, the mighty, the bloodletting that they watched, and now they might know. In Latin, we get signia, right? We see signia used, which I find interesting. Signia is like official. We can think of a signia as like an official mark. A king back in the day might have had a signet ring and he would stamp his official documents with it. So again, these placing the heavenly bodies into the sky are ordered authoritative acts by God. I want to point something out here. So far in the first 4 days, the descriptions of creation and the reasons for it are airtight. We've looked at multiple languages and gotten different context clues that make it absolutely clear there is no question. These are authoritative moves by God. They're supernatural moves by God. I can't help but think of the arguments of scientism, and I say scientism because science itself is great, but scientism is the wing of naturalism that aims to purposely edge God out. Let us come up with our premises purposely to design them without God. I've got kind of a problem with that one. Solely to erode God and his worshipers as superstitious or stupid. But do you see a description that says God must make the sun because we don't understand it? What I mean is the argument often used is, oh, well, back in the day, people didn't know what epilepsy was, so they just blamed it on demon possession. Back in the day, people didn't know what an earthquake was, so they just assumed God was mad at them. There's these baseless assertions made, but here in this creation account, even in the words, we see ordered perfection. We don't see a God randomly making things. We see a God defining the specific purpose with which he made them. That means there is no leg to stand on for this type of argument that, oh, God didn't really make these things. People back then were just stupid and needed some way to, make it up and identify it. I go back to my example about archaeologists finding construction based on star patterns in the sky. It means the earliest people were following God's directions about how to use the lights in the sky, long before there were modern Western analysis of how we study these things. Just in 4 days so far, we have statements that lead us to understand God is all-knowing, omniscient. God is eternal, revealing himself through his creation. Where I will go against mainstream orthodoxy here. I'm not arguing today whether or not God is a Trinity, but those Christians who argue the use of Elohim as triune are just not right. Hebrews will reveal that this is a plural word used to describe the singular essence of the omniscient being God. I think you can find places in the Old Testament where you can argue Trinity, but I don't think it's here, and I think it's a weak argument, and I see it used again and again. I'm more likely, notice we have not seen the word Yahweh yet in our 4 days. We've seen Elohim, and I am more likely to believe that Elohim has to do with the watcher class of angels that were placed here to observe and watch than that I am Elohim is the triune God. I know I'm opening a can of worms here, and we're allowed to have different opinions, but just in my research, the idea that Elohim is God, Christ, and Holy Spirit doesn't quite add up for me. Okay, next up, day 5. If you haven't seen the playlist, please check it out. In the coming days, I'll be doing 2 separate videos to accompany these on what the earliest church fathers said about creation itself, and another one on what they said about the specific days of creation. If you're watching this in the future, look for those. I'll try to organize all these on one playlist so you can find them. The books I've written, Amazon.com/author/Nicholas Garrett, Teespring store below. You can check me out across any platform on the net at Evangelist Nick G. God bless you. May your work bear fruit. Look forward to talking to you next time. Thanks.